All right, here's what we're doing today, people. We got Jimmy on his bike. He's got a 07 ZX6R. That's the 636. Cool bike. Kind of a classic. He named it Darcy, so make sure you give him shit if he comments on my page. He calls it Darcy. I don't believe in naming bikes in the first place. I especially don't believe in naming them. Darcy's like a fat lesbian's name. I don't know why he named it that. Second gear wheelie. Just snap that throttle, man. Came up farther than I thought. Traction control didn't catch it as quick as I thought too, which is kind of weird. Sometimes it do, sometimes it don't. It's not a very advanced system. Doesn't have an IMU, but for this kind of bike, it suffices. Let's turn on our grips, because I am wearing summer gloves. Ooh, E55 AMG. Nice looking little car. V8 bi-turbo. That turbo is bi. Anyway, we're going to head down to Mystic Grill and grab lunch. So we're going to play around a little bit, but the main purpose of the video is I'm playing with video quality, trying to up my game. I noticed on a lot of my videos, especially in the car videos. Come on, Jimmy. 1, 2, 3. I just walked away. Oh, he's probably mad. This bike is running awesome. Just a, I was gonna say the C word, just a C hair word under how did I say it? A C word hair underneath. 104 horsepower at the wheel and 85 foot-pounds, which is more than my R1 made at the wheel. Of course, it makes half the horsepower of the R1. Oh, a little more, but basically half. So, experimenting with different settings on the camera. So what we're doing right now is, hopefully this works. Hopefully I got it figured out. If not, I've got another ND filter. It's starting to play with ND filters. So what I noticed in my car videos especially was there was no sense of speed, like none. And I was going like 80 up a 35 twisty road in the Mustang, and there was like no sense of speed. You heard the motor going. I know I could see the dash. It wasn't on camera, so I know how fast I was going. I'm watching the video and I'm like, it sounds like it's awesome, and it looks like I'm going the goddamn speed limit. So I was like, that doesn't seem right. So it turns out, like with action videos and stuff like that, there's when you just put it in auto mode, it uses an insanely high shutter speed, like 1/1000th of a second or something. And so there's no sense of motion blur, which in real life, now we're not talking about adding blur to make something seem fast. We're talking about the eye naturally blurs. Next time you're going down the road at like 70 miles an hour or something, look at the road ahead of you and it's crystal clear, whatever you're focusing on. But everything in your peripheral kind of blurs by you, and the closer it gets to you at speed, the more it blurs. And in my videos, you don't see any of that. I'm shooting at 4K 60 and auto with a super high shutter speed, and you know, it looks brilliant and clear. But then I look at other videos. I'll look at a Max Wrist video or some of the My Moto Sci or some of these other guys, and I'm like, okay, they're going fast, but it just looks so much more realistic and fluid, and you have a real sense that, wow, they're going fast. And on other videos, I'm looking at the guy's speedometer and I'm like, he's not even going as fast as I ride, and his looks faster, and it's because of that motion blur. You're used to seeing that. In the real world, If you see a fan and a low speed, you see the blades blurring. If you wave your arms really fast or someone's doing a nunchucks, you see a blur, especially when you see it out of the peripheral. With a super high shutter speed, the shutter is it's only taking an image so quickly, there's no time for it to blur. It's too fast. And so everything's crystal clear. Now that looks good on video to do 60 hertz and you're flying down the mountain or doing whatever, and everything's just amazingly crystal clear. And if you pause it, it just looks like a still photo. But if there's an action sequence in a movie and you pause it, it's not a clear crystal, you're seeing blur, and that's what the eye normally sees. So what happens is that when there is no motion blur, it's like you're going slow. Like when I'm going slow, like here, what are we doing? 12 miles an hour? There's no motion blur when I look at the side of the road. But what if I go through here at 60 and I'm looking up ahead, that will be blurry as it goes past me. So when you see no motion blur, it's almost like your brain's like, well, you're not going that fast, because there are times you don't see it. It's typically when you're going slow. Or as you go past one piece, if I look at that mailbox, if I look up there, the mailbox blurs. If I look at that, it's clear because I'm tracking it. But whenever there's no blur on the scenes, your brain just, it's kind of like, yeah, I can see that things are going by quickly and I can see the speedometer, but I don't have the sensation of speed because it doesn't mimic real life. So what you have to do is, if you just slow down your shutter speed on your standard camera, it lets in way too much light and everything's just completely washed out. It's unusable. So what you do is you put on a polarized ND filter. I won't get on to all the technical stuff because honestly it doesn't matter, and I'm still learning it, which is the bigger reason. It's my old subdivision, used to live there, built a really nice house in there. I miss that house. Anyway, so what had happened was, when you turn down your shutter speed, you turn your ISO down to 100, which is how much light it lets in, and all this other stuff. It basically, it's completely washed out and bright. It's just like white. So the ND filters cut down, and there's like a 4, then an 8, I got a 16 and a 32. And based on how much available light there is, you get your settings where you want, and then you basically have to look outside that morning and take your camera and do a quick test and say, okay, it's kind of cloudy, so the N16 the N16 is right for 4K 60 aperture speed, or the shutter speed at 1/120th. So basically you're taking your frame rate and you're doubling that. That's your shutter speed. And then you basically need to figure out what filter. So when I look at the clouds, I put on the N32, it was way too dark. If I put on the N8 and I look at the clouds where the sun is, a lot of the clouds, some look okay where it's dark, and the other ones are just washed out, too bright. Can't see any actual detail of the clouds. I put the N16 on today, and then I can see the details of the clouds just fine. And so that's how, I mean, in the summertime when it's a deep blue sky, low humidity, your UV index is high, it's like really bright midday in the summer, then I'm probably going to switch to the ND32. But on a partly sunny, partly cloudy day, and then an ND16 is good. If it was like dusky and like really overcast, like almost like it was going to rain, but daylight, but that dark, then I would go down to the 8. And there's some other tricks, you can tweak in between by just tweaking the ISO a little bit. Or if it's a middle sunny day like today, I probably could have gotten by with an ND32 and then knock my shutter speed down from 120 to 160th. And that would have given me a really nice motion blur. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm experimenting with different things. So this video is 4K, 60 hertz, 60 frames per second, 1/120th shutter, ISO 100 with an ND16. I'll edit out some of this stuff for him, and then I'll turn it off and I'll come back on. And then we're gonna go, I want to get a little bit of an action scene. So there's a little bit of a cool sweeper that goes across a little pond. that I can normally, if there's no cars there, I can haul ass. I want to go through there at a good clip and see what that motion blur looks like. And then probably later, if it's not too dark, I may switch to the ND32 with 60 shutter speed. That gives you a really good motion blur, but you get all the crispness of what's in front of you with the 4K 60. I saw a video of that, and man, did it look good. So anyway, that's what we're gonna do, is play around with this stuff and try to bring a more cinematic and a better look to the videos. I want them to be, you know, it's not like, oh, we're speeding them up or trying to make them look fast. Unfortunately, the way I've been shooting was very, very amateur, and it actually takes away from the sense of speed. So what we're going to try to do here is film it in such a way that it more mimics real life. I want the videos to be more realistic, more immersive, you know, to really kind of pop. So I've got the vivid color palette picked. We'll see what enhancements there are in iMovie. I may switch to DaVinci Resolve once I get my new MacBook Pro. All the roads are dry except for this road. As long as it's not throwing up any moisture onto the lens. What are these chowder heads doing? I don't know where they're going. Feels so good, man. The motor, if you haven't watched the videos on the dyno tuning, we got the Folan's damper down there, K-Tech Racing shocks, all set up by GMD CompuTrack for my weight and riding style. What else we got? Olin shocks out back, really nice tune. My heated grips, what are they on, low? No, they're on high. I was going to say, I feel a little too warm. Let's turn them down. I think that guy was kind of pulling over a little bit to let us go, so we'll give him the courtesy wave. Thanks for making our illegal pass a little less illegal. I do miss this area. I love where I live now, but this side of town had some nice riding roads. Leave your subdivision and it's just all back twisty roads like this for miles. I mean, miles and miles, like 100 miles. Go out past Athens and Augusta. It's just all really cool. Just had a giant bug smack my helmet. Alright, so we're gonna go straight, try to get to my little twisty road. I may shut the camera down just a little bit, and then we'll come back on, and that way I'm not just wasting battery. And I mean, we're not wasting film, but you know what I mean. Let's go ahead and shut it. Alright, we're back recording, but I don't think we're gonna take the route I was originally planning on. There's construction and it rerouted us. So we're going to go this way, and it's probably going to be some back roads that I don't know, which is fine. We'll have that sense of adventure and the wonderment of a child. All right, Jimmy. I don't know the roads, so I don't know how fast I can go here, but... Although there is a chance that it's actually routing me onto the one road that I actually wanted to hit. That goes over the lake. I don't know. We're gonna find out. I mean, it looks sort of familiar, but I haven't lived over on this side of town in, well, 12 years. So also the sun's going behind a little more clouds, so I wanted to turn the camera back on and was curious how if the ND16 is now going to be too dark. I didn't bring any others. I have an ND32 in my bag, or in my pocket, in a Ziploc bag to keep it dry and dirt-free. But that would be going in the other direction. That would make it too dark. So we'll have to see. Next time I pull over, I can do a camera check. That's the only downside of, you know, when you're going to use ND filters and you want to get motion blur and things like that, you know, the beauty of auto mode, ooh, vultures, hit one of those before with my street cup. So what was I going to say? I got Google Maps yapping in my ear, which distracts me. We're making a left up here. So anyway, yeah, the beauty of using the, you know, just auto and no ND filters is that basically, you know, you just point and shoot, and it's going to take nice looking video. It'll be bright, vibrant, crystal clear, smooth, all that good stuff, right? When you want to get into improving it and you go into manual mode, that's good. You can get better results, but you do have to fiddle with it. When the light changes, you know, and I guess that's what you're paying for. You know, it's not as simple as when you're going for a, you know, if you're paying like a wedding photographer or something, and you're like, oh, how come it costs so much money? It's a digital camera. It's not like you're developing film. It's like, well, they got a lot of expensive equipment, and also there's the know-how. You know, I used to downplay it and be like, dude, just pull out your iPhone and take some cameras, and it probably would look fine. But when you want that little bit of extra look and pop to the camera, you got to know what you're doing. You know, it's not enough just to go buy an expensive DSLR or a GoPro or Insta360 or whatever. You know, for the average, you know, amateur, you just put it on auto and leave it, and it's cool. You know, it looks good. When you want to take it to that next level, that's where you got to have some know-how, and so I'm just starting to learn this stuff. And so, you know, you go and get it into manual and you find the right settings, and then the sun goes behind the clouds. So is my settings that I started out with when it was partly sunny going to still work, or is this part you're watching right now going to be a little dim? Am I going to have to brighten it up in post? And you can do that. You know, if it's a little dark, you can brighten it up in post. If it's too bright and washed out, then you don't have the detail there to darken it. It'll be darker, but it's going to be fuzzy. It's just not going to look right. So that's where there's a little bit of nuance when you're going out there, and you know, bring a couple. If you're going to use ND filters, bring one or get a little carrying case, put them in your pocket, put them under the seat, wherever in a backpack, and have them with you so that you go out in the morning and it's cloudy, but it's bright cloudy, right? It's bright white cloud. It's not really dark and overcast like it's going to rain. So you say, all right, the ND16 is going to be the right fit. I'm going to go with 4K 60. I'm going to do shutter speed of 120 and do my, you know, ISO of 100. And then the sun comes out and it's like really bright halfway through the day, and you're like, shh, I should have brought the ND32. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do things like, you know, turn your ISO up or down, or, you know, things like that. But if it's, you know, if you're already at ISO 100 and it's too bright, you know, I mean, I guess you can always take off the ND filter and just put it back into auto mode. So you got options, but you do have to go fiddle around with it more. That's the point I'm trying to get at. So yeah, so we'll see how that looks now that it's getting cloudy. I think at this point it's just going to be me talking, and this is really more of an experiment. I'm trying to figure out what works. I did it in the car the other day, and it's harder to tell in the car because, I mean, I guess maybe I need to mount it on a suction cup mount up on the front. When it's on the dashboard, it's in the car. Sometimes you get glare from the windshield. Sometimes you've got, yeah, you're seeing all the hood. And so it's here, you're just kind of like out, the camera's out in the open. And I think that blur and that cinematic effect is going to come in a little bit more on a bike. So we'll find out. I'm going to turn left here and shut the camera down, and if this is worthy of throwing up, I'll throw up later. Not throw up like vomit, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, folks, if I don't talk to you more, later, Gator.